Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today I just wrapped up my reading of Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer on this channel. It will be uploaded on the 29th of November. Actually, it will premiere on the 29th, which is next week after the Thanksgiving holiday. But I have to say, I was so damn frustrated with Edward. And no other character does this to me the same way that Edward Cullen does. He frustrates me. Jacob Black, after he phased, he was so irritating. And quite frankly, Bella Swan, she irritates me a bit too. All three of them have this power to just irritate me to death. I'm not even kidding. Like, Midnight Sun, I can say, is probably one of my favorite books. But I do have to say, the ending with that epilogue, if you've seen my YouTube short on my reaction to that after I finished reading that Bible for Twilight, oh my God. Like, you could see just how frustrated I was with Edward. So ultimately, I'm too irritated with Edward right now. I am just so irritated with him that I'm just trying to think of like what else I could possibly read in the saga. And I am, honest to God, gonna do something that I never do. I never do this, but I am breaking timeline here, and I am going to read the gender bent version of Twilight before I move on to New Moon in the main timeline. I am going to read Life and Death Twilight Reimagined to see if Edith Cullen is even a little bit less irritating than her male counterpart. Okay? I'm gonna see if I feel less irritated with Edith than I do with Edward right now. All the while I'm wearing a Dare tank top to resist drugs and violence because, like Edward said, Bella's blood is his own personal brand of heroin. So I think it is very appropriate for me today to be wearing a shirt that advertises kids to stay away from drugs and alcohol underage. Okay, so I just made my own sick little joke there. But before we begin the reading, I just have to make this quick disclaimer that I do not own any of the text being presented here, nor am I trying to present any of this text as my own. This is all simply a read aloud that I'm doing on the channel for entertainment purposes, and it is all in fair use, and Life and Death, like all the other Twilight books, is owned by Stephenie Meyer. So this is Life and Death by Stephenie Meyer. And we are going to start with the foreword because I want to read what Stephenie Meyer has to say about this. I really do. I want to read about her justification behind why she decided to do a gender-bent version of the story. So let's begin with the foreword. I'm actually really excited about this. Like, this is getting me excited to read. Okay, let's go. All right. Hello, lovely reader. As you may know, 2015 marked the 10th anniversary of Twilight. To celebrate this milestone, I decided to create a reimagining of the original story. As I was musing on Twilight after being away from it for so long, I started thinking about something I'd said many times before at signings and in interviews. You know, Bella has always gotten a lot of censure for getting rescued on multiple occasions, and people have complained about her being a typical damsel in distress. My answer to that has always been that Bella is a human in distress. In distress, a normal human being surrounded on all sides by people who are basically superheroes and supervillains. She's also been criticized for being too consumed with her love interest, as if it's somehow just a girl thing, but I've always maintained that it would have made no difference if the human were male and the vampire female. It's still the same story. Gender and species aside, Twilight has always been a story about the magic and obsession and frenzy of first love. There isn't much difference at all between a female human in love with a male vampire and a male human in love with a female vampire. And that's how Beau and Edith were born. A couple of notes on the conversion. I've done a pretty straight across the board gender swap with all the Twilight characters, but there are two exceptions. The biggest exception is Charlie and Renee, who have stayed Charlie and Renee. Here's the reason for that. Beau was born in 1987. It was a rare thing for a father to get primary custody of a child in those days, even more so when the child was just a baby. Most likely, the mother would have had to be proven unfit in some way. I have a really hard time believing that any judge at that time, or even now, would give a child to a transient, unemployed father over a mother with a steady job and strong ties to her community. Of course, these days, if Charlie had fought for Bella, he probably could have taken her from Renee. Thus, the more unlikely scenario is the one that plays out in Twilight. Only the fact that a few decades ago, a mother's rights were considered more important than a father's rights, as well as the fact that Charlie's not the vindictive type, made it possible for Renee to raise Bella, and in this case, now Beau. And the second exception is very small. Just a few background characters mentioned only twice. The reason for this exception is my misplaced sense of justice for fictional people. There are two characters in the wider Twilight universe who really got the shaft in an ongoing sense. So instead of doing a swap with these characters, I gave them a coup. It adds nothing to the story. It was just me being weird and indulging my neurosis. There are many more changes in the writing than were necessitated by Beau's status as a male person, so I thought I would break them down for you. These are, of course, rough estimates. I did not count all the words I changed or do my actual math. 5% of the changes I made were because Beau is a boy. 5% of the changes were because Beau's personality developed just slightly differently from than Bella's. The biggest variations are that he's more OCD, he's not nearly so flowery with his words and thoughts, and he's not as angry. He's totally missing the chip Bella carries around on her shoulder all the time. 70% of the changes I made were because I was allowed to do a new editing run 10 years later. I got to fix almost every word that has bothered me since the book was printed, and it was glorious. 10% were things that I wished I had done the first time around, but that hadn't occurred to me at the time. That might sound like the same thing as the preceding category, but it's slightly different. This isn't a case of a word that sounds clunky or awkward. This is an idea that I wish had been explored earlier, or conversations that should have happened but didn't. 5% were mythology issues, mistakes actually, mostly related to visions. As I continued into the sequels to Twilight and even Midnight Sun, where I got to look inside Alice's head with Edward, the way Alice's visions worked was refined. It's more mystical in Twilight, and looking at it now, there are ways she should have been involved and wasn't. Whoops! Which leaves a 5% catch-all for the many miscellaneous changes that I made, each for a different and no doubt selfish reason. I hope you have fun with Beau and Edith's story. I truly had the best time ever creating this new version. I love Beau and Edith with a passion I did not see coming, and their story has made the fictional world of Forks fresh and happy for me again. I hope it does the same for you. If you get 1/10 of the pleasure out of this that I did, it will be worth it. Thank you for reading. Thank you for being a part of this world, and thank you for being such an amazing and unexpected source of joy in my life for the last decade. Much love, Stephanie. Oh, okay, that was so sweet. Like, oh man, I just love her. She just has like the sweetest freaking heart ever. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, there's just something about her that is just so down to earth and so like centered that you just can't help but love her. Like, her personality and everything, like the way how she thinks. I just love how she thinks when she writes, how she creates playlists for all of her books, as she writes all of her books to specific music playlists, and how she has the same obsession with bands like Linkin Park and Paramore that I do. So, of course, you know, I feel a bit of a connection there with her. Absolutely, 100%. So I think I want to do this now. And of course, she quotes 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which is Buford's favorite book in this book, as opposed to let's say Bella's favorite book, which is Wuthering Heights. So let's read the preface to this story, which is obviously 10 times different from Twilight. We're going to see a lot of differences here. I'm excited. Yes! Ah! Preface. I'd never given much thought to dying, though I'd had reason enough in the last few months, but even if I had, I wouldn't have imagined it like this. I stared across the long room into the dark eyes of the hunter, and she looked pleasantly back at me. At least it was a good way to die, in the place of someone else, someone I loved, noble even. That ought to count for something. I knew that if I'd never gone to Forks, I wouldn't be about to die now. But, terrified as I was, I couldn't bring myself to regret the decision. When life offers you a dream so far beyond any of your expectations, it's not reasonable to grieve when it comes to an end. The hunter smiled in a friendly way as she sauntered forward to kill me. Okay, so obviously the preface, very similar to the preface in the first Twilight, for some pretty obvious reasoning there. You see, like, I can say that the preface here, very, very similar to the first Twilight, but also very poetic in a lot of ways, because it sort of mirrors what's going to happen, or foretells what's going to happen much later. And it doesn't straight out tell you exactly everything that's going to occur in the book. So that's what I like about how Stephenie Meyer writes the prefaces. She's good at alluding to what you know is going to happen, what's inevitable. You know that Buford is going to face death at some point, but the name of this hunter, the new hunter, well, we don't know her just yet. So yeah, that's the bit there that I really do love about this preface. And I think that she actually changed how it looks on the page, like particularly the font, like how it's framed in particular. I don't remember that being in the first Twilight at all whatsoever. Not at all. Actually, do all the chapters look this way? Yeah, they do. Oh, wow. I like that. I like that a lot. So I think I'm going to cap the video actually off here. And then I'm going to post, actually, I'm going to premiere both of these on the same day, because I like starting chapter 1 on the same day that I start the preface for pretty obvious reasoning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cap off the video here with the foreword in the preface, and then I'm going to start reading chapter 1, which is called First Sight, just like how it was in the first Twilight book. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this so far, and that you guys are looking forward to listening to me reading Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined, as much as I am. I am so excited to start this, and it's bringing me a lot of joy right now. I'm really, really excited for it. And then after this, we're going to continue on with the main timeline with New Moon. After I finish this book, we're going to read New Moon, and we're going to see how the main timeline plays out in the rest of the books. And then overall, I'm going to probably rank all of the books differently, and basically like list off all my favorite ones from like the beginning all the way to the end. So overall, I hope that you guys enjoyed, and if you liked the video, you can hit that thumbs up button and leave comments down below telling me what you are most excited for with the reading of Life and Death, what you are most excited to see changed, particularly in this story, to see if Stephenie Meyer has truly proven a point. If she has proven her point, I think that she most certainly will in this book, absolutely, because I completely agree that Bella and Bo in this case are both humans in distress, and they're not damsels in distress at all. So I mean, come on. We can't all be Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's be real. So, and also, if you happen to be new, subscribe to the channel as well for more of the content. God bless, happy viewing, and have a nice day, everybody. See ya.